So you have to look and examine your mind and your intention to see if there is delight, and kamlat means sensual desire in the mind. Another word for this, or the technical word Pali, is apicca, usually translated as covetousness. So this is a state, this is a thought which generally is experienced in the world, people in the world experience. So you have to see that's present in that. Abhijja is covetousness, and that's a frequent state in the world. Domanasang is the opposite, usually translated as grief or negativity in this phrase. Vinaya loke abhijja domanasang, having laid aside covetousness and grief for the world. So basically abandoning delight and aversion. Can be in loke is translated as in the world, or in the world of the sense realm, however you want to interpret it. And this is what we chant. This is from the Satipatthana Sutta. Gaye gayanupassi viharati. He dwells contemplating body in the body, or just contemplating the body. Vedana suvedananupassi viharati. He contemplates feeling based on feeling. So you examine your moods and your mental states. Vinaya loke abhijja domanasang, laying aside covetousness and grief for the world. Vinaya is the same root as the word vinaya. Yeah. So this is the meaning of vinaya, is that which leads away. So I was drawing the link between vinaya and this principle of putting aside, in the other sense, having laid aside or led away from covetousness and grief. So whoever it is, whether it's your relatives, your niece or whatever, just you learn to see everybody, including yourself, as this relatives in old age, sickness and death. In terms of conventional society, we talk about our family and blood relatives, but we look beyond that and see that it's just elements, just dhatus, and just you look in yourself as well and see that. Then when you understand that, then dukkha can't bind up your heart. We're all bound up with old age, all bound up with sickness, all bound up with death. That's something which is, it's like it, kroknam means to kind of overcome and overwhelm. We will all be overwhelmed by that. But knowing that as nature, then on account of that we won't be overwhelmed by dukkha or suffering. Is that like people in California, are they the same? Is that how they are? Bound up by old age, sickness and death. Yes. So the Buddha taught us to just be very, very careful, in the sense of care not to allow worldly thoughts, or lok, it has these many connotations, means the world, but also means the world of the sense bases, sensual, to arise and overwhelm or overcome or overpower us. And our aramana, our thoughts and moods and emotions and feelings. It's this word which has many meanings. Again, not to overcome us, so that we won't be a slave of them. So people, this word sabai can have two, which means at ease and happy. It can be like positive and negative, and in the dangerously unwholesome sense, most people in the world, they find that happiness in their thoughts, their feelings, their proliferations, worldly thinking. But when we understand that this is not what leads to freedom, all these thoughts and our moods and opinions are not where freedom lies. So, conventionally speaking, this word is used in society, but it tricks us, it obscures the truth. We use this word, I say happy, at ease, delighting, liking things. I feel good, sabai in that sense. But for the most part, when people say, how do you feel? I feel good, I feel sabai, it's not the true peace. It's not, because it's not peaceful. It's a bukbit means to obscure or to cover the truth. So it deludes us. So in our texts, in the language where our rules are laid down, then we're always taught to be very careful, because we still have sensual desire, as we don't we don't understand the true nature of things. So like in our rules, it always specifies if a monk, based on sensual desire, or literally his mind is bound up, is altered, is in an altered state with sensual desire, should make contact with lustful intention, make contact with a woman's body with lustful intention, should speak with reference to sexual organs, or should speak with regard to ministering his own sexual activity on that basis. There's the offences. So it's very clear, the language gives us pointing to the state where we have what's called the apapkiriya. We still are bound up with the habits and tendencies and actions of desire. And that's what the rules point to very clearly because of that. So the way to train the mind to lead towards peace is to cultivate or bring up for development the awareness or the object of mindfulness and clear comprehension based on the body. You contemplate the body as the Mahabuddha-rupa. This is kind of carrying on from the body like impure water. Conventionally speaking, it's fruit juice, but what it is water, which is not intrinsically pure. It's got all kinds of other stuff in it. This is just following on from what I haven't quite translated yet. He's talking about the body, guy. It's the four great elements. It's impermanent. It's not stable. It's intrinsically impure. It's and so seeing this leads to the fading of desire, the fading of craving, and all kinds of conceiving of self, the notion I and mine, based on just seeing it as it is. So like that's impure water. You don't conventionally speaking, we call it fruit juice, but what it is water dirtied by other stuff. And if we drink it and it gets all mixed up with our body, it's really gross. The body's like a big dustbin. Trash can. Sorry, trash can. I think I got it. Trash can. It's a place where flies can reproduce, and their eggs can. The reproductive cycle of flies can make use of the bodies. There are lots of flies in Australia and India. As soon as your last breath ends, then immediately flies will come and take advantage of your body and lay their eggs, and that's when you see these rotten corpses with maggots and larvae all wriggling around. Very quickly the body becomes something putrid and disgusting, like a bird hunting at night. They've got special eyesight so they can see in the dark.
Is it helpful to contemplate these things sometimes when thinking about animals? Because my mind often thinks about beautiful deer and how nice and sweet they are, or beautiful owls, how majestic, and we're really the taking of another being's life, like when an owl actually goes and rips apart a mouse, or when deer are very aggressive towards each other. This is actually quite a horrible thing to contemplate or think about, but my mind really rarely inclines towards that. Dhammic belief, that's helpful to try to reverse the mind and think about those negative aspects of these beautiful animals.
He says, look at them as stupid. Like as in they're just ignorant beings. Yeah, so they do this, they do that, they fight.
I just see that as a suffering condition.
Just a foolish state. At first I thought he was saying seeing things like you're still foolish for seeing things that way. But then he said no, it's like just beings in the world, all animals. So just see them as corpses, as carcasses already, just no different from us. They're just, bound up with this process of their life, and then at some point they end up on the ground and return to just like us. They're like jackals. They don't fight with hyenas. They don't eat deer because of they do it because they just need food.
Yeah.
It's not anything really bad or anything special. It's not anger. It's just their natural, just their nature, their cycle.
They're caught. They can't. I mean, they can't just become vegetarians.
He said they could if their parents taught them to. I was saying, like in northeast Thailand, the dogs just live on sticky rice. He says because they have to. He says in Thailand there are wild dogs, forest dogs, and they even eat fruits and this kind of thing. They learn how to do it because they have to.
Ask if any encouragement or discouragement. That's one question. With regards to the Dhutanga of the sitter's practice, and also if there is encouragement, maybe some instruction.
So our life has aspects, has facets to it, and so this is one way of looking at our life and seeing what do we do, what does it have, and one aspect that we see is that at night time we are accustomed to lying down. So when we don't lie down, then it gives us an opportunity to observe what happens and then also develop certain qualities in ourselves, namely one important one being oton, patient endurance. We have to patiently endure new experiences, things that we've never experienced before. Deer, on the other hand, will often feed or find forage at night time and then rest more during the day, and they're used to that. But we, on the other hand, are not used to staying up at night time, so we can be a source of endurance. Same with getting food you like, you delight in that, and you say this is good food, I like this, and then food you don't like, you label it as bad food. And so all of this because of the sense of self, strong conceit, I am. Nesajjik is simply a word or a way of describing an act of putting forth great effort and energy, of developing mindfulness and patient endurance.
What is?
Nesajjik. No lying down. So not sleeping and not lying down, you have to do it with right effort as well, not just like people in the world who mainly spend the whole night gambling. In the world you can stay up all night by visiting a prostitute or by going to see some kind of game, playing some game. So that's not staying up all night with effort. That's just staying up all night by indulging in your sense cords or your sensuality. Where does sensuality arise?
Is it, when the mind inclines towards sensuality, then it wakes up. But when it inclines towards, wisdom, often in the stages of early practice, it just goes to sleep.
Well, hang on. He asked us where does sensuality arise? Where does it arise?
Mind?
Yeah, in the mind,
In
yeah.
the mind.
Sensuality arises based on or bound up with the system or the process of contact, sense contact. So when eye sees form, ear hears sounds, nose smells odours, tongue tastes flavours, and body contacts tangibles, and then manos and cetana, then intentional volitional formations arise, giving rise to thoughts in the mind. This is the arising of sensuality, the process. Based on the eye, delight, pleasure, infatuation can arise. Negativity, aversion, anger can arise based on the eye. So suffering arises based on the eye. If you see nice food in a plate or food in a pot, how does that feel? Also, the eye, hunger and suffering arise based on the eye as well. If you're hungry and you look at the plate and there's nothing in the plate and there's nothing in the pot, how does that feel? Agitated, annoyed, dissatisfied, not happy. So see that kind of suffering, see that like a peace, see the mind which is agitated, restless. So the suffering can arise based on hearing somebody say something you don't like. It gives rise to suffering, remorse, agitation, dislike, negativity. So look at any kind of suffering that arises in your mind and ask where and why does it arise. Suffering arises because of a hue is like hunger, or thirst or desire. Yak is desire, and you desire, you're hungry because of desire. So with mindfulness, really observe feelings, just feelings. With mindfulness, really observe feelings, just feelings. Wherever happiness arises or sukha vedana, there suffering will arise. So it's the same with Nesajjik, sitting up. Maybe you're sitting out in the open and a mosquito comes to bite you and you say, oh, that mosquito's bothering me, but you don't realise that you're bothering the mosquito. So we always see things the wrong way. We kind of flip things around. We think the mosquito's bothering us, but the world has to have mosquitoes. It's just the nature of the world. The world's got all kinds of things. If there's getting, then there's the losing of things. Like there's always the positive and the negative.
When he says bothering the mosquito, is that to be taken more as like not literally like we're like physically bothering it, but our mind's going out towards it, creating this suffering and bothering in our body and our mind? Like the sound, the example that Ajahn Chah said.
So I said, well, look how I was going to try to undertake Nesajjik. Any advice, any recommendations? And he said, well, just don't deceive yourself or don't delude yourself. And I said, how exactly do you mean? And he said, well, like when you're practicing and then the thought will arise, oh, that's enough, can't take it any longer. And don't buy into that. And it's just proliferation, citta sankharas, just thoughts arising.
Heard with the sitters practice from some of the senior monks and other monks who aren't so senior, that they've tried it, and sometimes some have said that I can honestly say I did it for 10 years, or I did it for 3 years, or I did it for 5 years, and it did nothing for me. And just is that out of ignorance, or is that possibly that? Yeah, I mean, they endured it, and they said, "Oh, yeah, I endured it," or maybe they don't see that it actually did this.
They don't have approach it in the right way, with the right goal, or the right understanding, or the right aim. They're thinking, well, if I do this, I should get this. Seeing it in a circumspect way. And most people stay up all night and they say, I'm doing Nesajjik, but then they sleep all day. That's not right. So we're saying, with nodding, it's sometimes because of just the body's just really weak and worn out and tired. You just generally just can't, stay awake. Sometimes it genuinely is lack of mindfulness. So I was saying, well, is it good to get up and walk? And you can, yeah, you can do that. That's good too. And then if you are able to walk, then it's a sign then that you've got, you do have the physical strength there. And if you do rest, if you do really feel you have to rest, then rest very clearly, make the determination. Then as soon as you, awake, as soon as you, come to, then you just rise up straight away and carry on the practice. So with all the Tudonga Wattas, if you don't really understand the point, then you can miss the point. If you understand that Tudong is, all of them are skillful means to eliminate desire and this kind of desire basically. Sensual desire and lust or craving. is something which destroys peace of mind. So Luang Por said, what are the factors of samadhi? Quite secluded from sensuality, secluded from unwholesome states. That's desire and aversion. All is from akusala dhammas. The feeling is, one is full, one is awake, one is satisfied, and there's nothing left to add. There's nothing you need to add. That is, that when desire fades.
So the mind that's enduring the Dhutangas is it's just learning not to make a problem out of these things, because it just keeps enduring and enduring and enduring, and then sensuality is, or the search for sensuality is depreciated through.
So desire, sensual desire fades, but desire for developing oneself in wisdom will arise. If you've lived in a very comfortable place, and then you suddenly live in an uncomfortable place, or you could say live in a comfortable way, and then begin to live in a less comfortable way, how does that feel? Like, what if you suddenly set out across the desert? How would that feel? Fear of death arises, right? So contemplate, and when we have the fear of death, we then can contemplate death. We see that the days and nights are relentlessly passing, with our lives are bound up with the passage of time, and death is ever present every day, every day, every day. We're just one step away from death, and then one day we finally meet it. So most people really suffer with those kind of thoughts. And if there's that kind of suffering, then most people, if they're not really strong, lose heart and kind of retreat. So you see, this fear of death makes people like agitators. There's no peace. There's no peace. They get very kind of anxious. So we then have to specifically hold death as our object of meditation. Even people who are VIPs, important people in the world, or beginning people in the world, they can't conquer death. So you just be another George Washington.
It seems very slippery, the fear, or contemplating death. Almost like the mind just wants to keep.
So the purpose for thinking in this way, cultivating death, is to abandon or reduce attachment to self, or giving oneself self-importance, or just conceiving notions of self, thinking that you are this, you are that way, there's me, there's mine. So you just slowly reduce this whole way of thinking. You see that this is the truth of nature, the mystery or the secret of nature, that nothing is yours, that all must be abandoned. So these thoughts leads to these thoughts of aloofness. And so it's translation of viveka, okay, and lead to the fading of desire and abandonment of craving. And indeed, like they're good for that. They work. There's no one here. You have no father. You have no mother. There's just beings. The world just means beings arising and passing away. Beings in the world as members of the consumer group, then they are of the nature to pass away. Our usual maximum time span, our allotted time given us, is usually no more than about 29,000 days. The convention of years, then roughly 80 is a good average.
It's often like a dream, though. It's like when you wake up and you try to remember your dream, it's slipping and slipping, and you can't grasp it, and you can't grasp it. It's
like the Varanasi.
Yeah, it's kind of like there are only certain times, like maybe at night when I'm alone and I really start to die, I'm gonna really die, and then all of a sudden this great fear can arise, and then I fall asleep. You know what I mean? But otherwise, it's just like this drifting kind of. I can't grasp it, can't believe it.
Okay, I said you couldn't be really firm with it. He said, don't make it. Don't be firm with your grasping of the death awareness. Just be careful. just be cautious with regard to, just bring on that sense of caution. That I've used it for great benefit. Death contemplation, it's just, it's helped me win in every situation, overcome anything, to overcome all dis-ease. So tonight, this idea of victory can give rise to heedlessness, or can be taken in a kind of heedless way, the worldly way. People are sort of seeking victory, but in this sense, it means to realize that the notion or the truth that things are just as they are. This expression Penchinange, it's just that. In Pali, tatata, suchness. This is the victory when you experience suchness. And he does it using death.
Yeah, in the mind of an arhat, then is it one is maybe dispassionate in like the forms one sees by the eyes, but there's also this reflective quality of knowing these forms, everything is impermanent.
Mm-hmm.
So there can be this kind of simultaneously, you can grasp at a form, or you see a form, but you're also there with it in the moment, maybe, and or an arhat is, but also there's this reflective quality going on about just its impermanence, it's not self. So they're happening simultaneously.
Well, not simultaneously, no thought process simultaneous, but quickly one after the other. They're saying that as long as if there's delight and aversion still arising, then that's not the arahant state. So in the arahant's mind, nothing, no places or craving will ever arise. So the eye is just like the functioning, one aspect of the functioning of the nervous system. Eye sees forms, no delight and aversion arises. So there's no contemplation, and no need to contemplate, because there's just this emptiness intrinsic to the arahant's mind already. He's saying if the eye sees form and there's absolutely no delight and aversion arising, then it's emptiness there already, no need to do anything. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do anyway? If the mind's like that, what's it going to do? What's it going to contemplate? It's just this natural state. The arahant still eats, still wears clothes, still does the day activity like the Buddha after his enlightenment lived many, many years, just did all his Buddha Gijja, his Buddha activities, but with no delight and aversion. And the enlightened person's not like not like a Buddhist statue.